someone in the house is bedridden all day, making the whole place feel gloomy. It's really frustrating because she can't even take care of herself. I wonder how long she's going to stay here, just sleeping all the time. Whenever my mother-in-law and sister-in-law see me, they complain, saying, "What's the point of Tom having a wife who doesn't do anything?" Even my father-in-law joins in and says the same thing. My name is Jane Brown. I'm 32 years old, and I've been married for 5 years. My father passed away from an illness when I was in high school, and my mother died soon after I got married. I've always loved drawing and dreamed of becoming a picture book artist. After high school, I went to design school and got a job as an illustrator at a small design office. My husband worked for an advertising company, and we met when he asked me to illustrate a character for an ad. After dating for 2 years, we got married. My sister-in-law lived with my in-laws, and after we got married, we decided to live with them too. I became a freelancer and worked from home, doing my best to be a good wife and take care of the house. My mother-in-law didn't like housework much, so she let me do whatever I wanted. My sister-in-law was also not interested in housework and often went out with friends, so we rarely had meals together. But despite this, we all lived together without any major issues. However, 3 years ago, everything changed when I fell down a flight of stairs at a train station and seriously injured myself. I suffered a spinal injury that left me paralyzed from the waist down. It was a huge shock, but over time, I started to adjust. At first, my in-laws took care of me, but they didn't expect that I would be unable to walk again. As time passed, things changed in our household. My sister-in-law got married 2 years ago and moved out. Now that my sister-in-law is gone, I don't have to see Jane anymore, but it's clear that my in-laws are annoyed with me. As I'm almost always bedridden, I can't return to my parents' house alone because I understand it would be a burden to care for someone who can't get out of bed. Since my in-laws' house is old, there's no space for a wheelchair, and because I can't move without one, I have to stay in bed. However, I've been working from home even before the accident, so I'm able to keep doing that. I'm grateful that my upper body isn't paralyzed, allowing me to continue working. I have a helper and a housekeeper who take care of me daily. If I lived alone, a helper would be able to assist with cleaning and laundry, but that's not possible since I live with family. The helper can only provide physical assistance. My husband can take care of me because of his work, but my spirits are still healthy. My mother-in-law isn't disabled or sick, and my father-in-law, who turned 65 last year, is retired and home all the time. Home helpers are not supposed to provide assistance if you have family living with you who are healthy and not working, especially with tasks like cleaning, laundry, and shopping. For the first couple of years, my in-laws helped a little, but they gradually stopped. I understand that my mother-in-law, who has always disliked housework, probably found it a hassle to do my chores. My husband was kind to me in the beginning, but now he rarely speaks to me. He says there's no reason to help because caring for someone is an immense job. Just because my in-laws don't help me anymore doesn't mean the helpers can't assist me either. Due to regulations, but the helper, seeing my situation and concerned for me, introduced me to our housekeeper. What a waste of money to hire a housekeeper. What kind of luxury are you talking about? My mother-in-law complained, but I have my own needs. If you don't do my laundry, I won't have any clothes to change into. I replied, "Are you trying to take advantage of me, your mother-in-law?" She asked. "No, I'm not, but given my situation, I don't have any other choice," I explained. When I said this, my in-laws looked at me as if I were a burden. "We don't have that kind of money," they grumbled. I was so glad I had kept my job because it allowed me to hire a housekeeper to come to the house. The housekeeper was a 52-year-old woman named Susie. Her husband had passed away long ago, and she had no children. She reminded me of my late mother in some ways. Susie was very kind and gentle, and she took great care of me. I was so happy to have her around. Now, the only people I can't talk to are Susie and the helper, not my family. When Susie started working, my in-laws immediately tried to take advantage of her. Hey, you should do our laundry and cleaning too, they demanded, but Susie firmly refused, saying, no, that would cost extra. Will you pay for it? My mother-in-law was shocked and argued, what's wrong with you? You're a housekeeper, how dare you refuse? I felt a bit relieved when Susie stood her ground and said no. After about a year of living like this, my sister-in-law came back home, divorced. She said it was because her husband had cheated on her. He was an idiot and must have been seduced by some woman, she complained. My brother-in-law worked for a big company and seemed like a responsible businessman, so I found it strange that he would cheat, but I didn't say anything to avoid trouble. Mia, my sister-in-law, started treating Susie the same way my in-laws did, but Susie continued to firmly refuse their demands. Susie didn't think much of them, since she had never heard them say a single kind word to me. Why are you even here to take care of Jane? Mia sneered. She's a useless housekeeper, just like Jane, they muttered. They assumed Susie was only working part-time and didn't really care. But the truth was, I had no choice but to rely on her for help. Mia and my in-laws, who could take care of themselves, didn't need help, so they resented me even more. A bedridden wife is nothing but a hindrance, they would say. When Mia came back, their sarcasm doubled. We only need Mia. You just take up space, lying in bed and drawing silly doodles, they mocked. Even when I was working, my sister-in-law would go out of her way to come into my room and criticize me. Fed up with the constant sarcasm, I decided to talk to my husband about it. I confronted my husband, telling him to ask his mother and me to be more careful with their words. I'm hurt too, I said, but he dismissed my feelings, saying, you can't even do your own housework. All you do is sleep in bed all day. I'm not just sleeping, I'm working, I defended myself. You're working in bed. It's an easy job. You don't have to commute like I do, he replied. Indifferent to my efforts, I was doing my best to be useful, but my family's dissatisfaction with me was clear. My husband added, it's no wonder they think you're useless. You can take care of the house despite being my wife. His lack of support was crushing. I knew my body had limitations, but hearing him say these things made me feel even more isolated and frustrated. I wished he could at least be sympathetic and understand how painful and sad I was. It hurt to think I was asking too much just to be treated with kindness. As I tried to hold back tears, I thought about how I got this way due to an accident. But I was still trying to move forward, doing my best despite everything. I miss my parents terribly, especially now when I felt so alone. But I was also relieved they didn't have to see me suffer like this. While I was contemplating leaving this house, hoping maybe my husband would come with me, he hit me with something even more devastating. I think I'd be better off with a younger, healthier wife, he said. I want to have an heir, but with you, it's just impossible. It felt like a club to the head. My husband, the person who was supposed to support me, was saying he wanted a divorce. He called me useless, a burden, a parasite that hung around their house. Get out, he said, making it clear there was no point in staying any longer. With no home to return to, I decided to leave. I asked Susie to help me find a new place, and she was more than happy to assist. After sorting everything out, I handed Tom the divorce papers. Good, you finally made up your mind, but don't hate Mahid yourself for having such a body, he said coldly. Are you sure you're okay with me leaving? I asked one last time. Of course, it's fine. I'll find someone more suitable for me, he responded, as if dismissing me from his life. Everyone kept telling me they'd find a better wife. Tom asked, will you be able to make a living? I reassured him not to worry, pointing out that his retirement money was still there. Mia had received plenty of compensation from her affair. We won't have to worry about money for a while, so I don't need to depend on you anymore, he said confidently. Oh sure, then do what you like, I replied, realizing that Tom was blind to reality. I moved out without further explanation. There were some positive changes in my new life. Living alone, I found support for my daily needs. People helped with cleaning, laundry, and shopping, which I deeply appreciated. I continued having Susie help me, but her role changed from housekeeper to business manager. Susie, once a businesswoman at a major company, had left her career after marriage. Despite that, she's digitally savvy and experienced, which explained her ability to stand up to my ex-in-laws. Now, she manages my business, something she's happy to do as a lifesaver. My new home is a barrier-free, wheelchair-accessible apartment, allowing me to move around and even cook. Just as I was settling into this new life, my ex-mother-in-law began calling frequently. However, I chose to ignore her calls, focusing instead on my work, which was thriving, partly thanks to Susie's support. A year passed, and I still heard from Mia, though less often than before. Feeling that my life was now stable, I decided to finally address things with my ex-mother-in-law. I picked up the phone. "Hello." "Finally, you answered. Why hadn't you been picking up the phone?" she asked, suddenly adopting a sweet tone she never used when I lived with them. I suspected she might be in trouble and needed something from me. I was worried that something had happened. She continued. "I'm grateful for your concern, but I'm doing well. You don't need to worry about me," I responded. "Oh, well, that's good to hear," she said hesitantly. "By the way, Dennis, well, they still want to live with us like before." "Excuse me," she said. "You can't be happy living with a worthless person like that." "I've been thinking a lot about this. It wasn't right to leave you, someone with a physical disability, all alone. I'll take good care of you, so you won't have to worry anymore." "I'm doing great," I replied. "Since I'm on my own, my helper supports me with chores like cleaning, laundry, and shopping. Plus, Susie helps me with my work, so there are no issues." About your business," she asked. "Is it true you're making more money than Tom?" "Yep, by the time we got divorced, he seemed to forget about it. He said I was earning close to $15,000 a month. My income was covering their living expenses. At the beginning, after the accident, they were helping me, and at the same time, Tom's company wasn't doing well, so his pay was cut. But unfortunately for him, my income kept increasing, so I offered to help. At first, he was apologetic and didn't want to tell his parents because he said they'd worry if they found out his salary dropped. But after 3 years, he seemed to forget that I was paying for most things. I thought he should have saved some of his salary when we divorced, but I didn't dare mention it. I also knew that Mia's divorce wasn't because her husband cheated but because of her. He had contacted me and told me that Mia stole his money. Mia claimed she received the money as alimony, but he said he would take back exactly what she took and charge her for compensation. I decided to get divorced before my in-laws learned the truth. When I confronted Callie about it, she was absolutely mortified. Tom had fallen in love with a girl from a hostess bar and owed a bit of money. "Oh, so that's why he wanted a divorce," she said, "so he could use your earnings." "He can't count on something like that," I said. "First of all, they weren't in a real relationship. He was just another customer." "I know," she said. "Did you know?" "Yep, I knew everything." "Why didn't you tell me? Did you also know that Tom's company was in trouble?" "Yes." "How dare you not tell me when you knew?" she yelled. According to Callie, Mia ran away with her unfaithful boyfriend, but he dumped her and left her with more debts. Tom's company went bankrupt 6 months ago, and he's been searching for a job, but he can't find one that he thinks is suitable. Now, he's just unemployed. He's lost all confidence in himself and has become a recluse. Since the kids are living with us, they completely used up Dad's retirement funds, and there are so many debts to pay. "Really?" I said. "So, if you come back, everything will be all right," she said. I don't get it, I thought. I really didn't understand what she meant by everything will be all right. I couldn't believe someone who had treated me so poorly was now saying something like this. I also wondered how someone could change so much in just 1 year. It happened sooner than I expected. Tom probably had no clue that his company would actually go bankrupt. It was something he was so careless about. Callie tearfully said that if she had known what was going to happen, she wouldn't have let us get divorced, but it's too late for that now. In the end, all she cares about is the money. The only important thing to her is herself. Mia doesn't feel like working right now, so she's just lying around the house and gaining weight. Oh, and they sold the house to pay off the kids' debts. The house was old and not worth much, so they didn't get much money for it after clearing the land and considering the bad location. And now, the four of thin two parents and two adult kids are living in a small, cheap one-room apartment and having a tough time. Kelly cried on the phone, saying they were forced to work part-time jobs from morning to night and were completely exhausted. It's all your fault, she said. If you had just answered my calls, we wouldn't have had to sell the house. What do you mean? I asked. If you had known we were selling the house, you would have helped us, right? You lived in the house too, so you must feel some attachment to it. Not at all, I replied. I couldn't believe how self-centered she was. I was really glad I hadn't answered the phone before. Even if I had, there was no way I would have gone along with what she was saying. So, both Tom and Mia are relying on you, aren't they? Please, come back. You're the only one we can't count on. Nope, I'm not your family, so don't rely on me. Don't say that. We're sorry for what we've done. I apologize. I couldn't believe she could say this. I started to get a headache and decided it was time to give them an ultimatum and end the conversation. The reason I picked up her call today is that I have something I want to let you know, I said. What is it? Kelly asked. I'm going to sue all of you. What? Why should we pay? Besides, it's not like Tom cheated on you, wasn't, even with that girl from the hostess bar. It's not about cheating. It's for the mental anguish caused by the verbal abuse I received from all of you. Ah. I told her that I had recorded and videotaped all the abusive things they had said to me. When I told her about the evidence I had, she got really upset and abruptly hung up the phone. Maybe she thought I might demand more money if we kept talking. I wonder if this is what it feels like to feel guilty. When I made a request for compensation through my lawyer, Kelly desperately pleaded to make it go away, complaining about their current situation. Of course, there was no way I would agree to that. Despite everything that has happened to me, I was asked to illustrate a picture, bringing me one step closer to my dream of becoming a picture book author someday. Many things have happened, but I'm determined to continue living my life positively and not take myself too seriously.